So here's a chart of going back to 1900s of US debt. So from sort of the late 1800s to early 1900s, we had the classical gold standard. So for every ounce of gold or silver in the treasury, they had it backed up every dollar or pound in existence. Then we had World War I and II, etc. So we then had the exchange gold standard, the gold exchange standard, and then we had World War II, etc. And obviously, deficit spending is pretty big during wars, especially a global war. Then we had the Bretton Woods system. I mean, a lot of you know this, but it's a good recap. And then we had an explosion in debt, mainly because after the Bretton Woods system, it basically turned every single currency, or the Bretton Woods system was highly flawed, but from 1973 onwards, it was 1971 onwards, we had this explosion, and because that's when they got rid of the Bretton Woods system, and every currency on the planet became a fiat currency, with the Federal Reserve printing. We then had the tech bubble crash, and that leads us to the 2008 crash, and this is where we are right now, $19.5 trillion in debt. Not us, the US. But I say us because we really are a tiny globe, and whatever happens in the US happens everywhere. So we do have to pay attention to what's going on over there. And this chart is actually really accurate. I mean, a lot of these exponential graphs, which sort of forecast what may happen, has been pretty spot on over the last few years. And yeah, I mean, it really can't, in my opinion, it can't go on for too much longer. And this is, I think, a pretty cool example of how reckless the US government is. And this is the same for every single government around. So this blue stuff over here is how much the US spends every single year. So as you can see, they are spending, or this only goes back to 2014, but the picture is still the same, if not tiny bit worse. So they're spending $3.5 trillion per year, but they're only taking in sort of $3 trillion per year. So that's $500 billion in just overspending. It's like earning $2,000 a month and spending a lot more, $3-4 grand a month. And this is the debt, along with all the presidencies. So I see on Facebook this meme going how well Obama's done. You know, he's risen the stock market, he's got rid of blah, 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 blah. But he's accumulated more debt than any president in the history of the United States. His debt, he got in at $12 trillion of debt, is now $19.5 trillion. Yeah, so he's done, even better than I thought. So another reason why you need to completely take responsibility of all the crap that's going on in the world, so you don't need to worry about things. I don't give a shit if either of them wins. I don't care who's our prime minister, what the banks do. I know it's a very pessimistic sort of stance, but I just always think that taxes will always be too high, prices will always be too high, houses will be too expensive, and politicians and bankers will always be bastards. So from that mindset, nothing ever surprises me. Nothing.